Welcome so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. Happy Monday. It's Monday morning where I am, but it might be Monday afternoon, evening, depending on where you are joining us from in the world. So thank you so much for joining us for today's event. My name is Meg. I am from Power to Fly's virtual hosting team, and I am incredibly excited to be hosting this morning's event with Rebecca. Now, before we dive in and introduce you to our speakers and get started, I just want to highlight a couple things for you. So for today's event, and like all of our virtual events, this is all about you. It's about our participants. We want to make sure that if you took time out of your day to be here with us live, that you get just, prime treatment, the best options and the most opportunities to get the most out of today's event. So to that end, you are encouraged to participate in a couple different ways. If you would like to, you are welcome to come on camera. You can turn your cameras on, show us your smiling, maskless faces safely, but there's no pressure to be Instagram perfect, y'all. I think I washed my hair this morning for the first time in like maybe 4 days. Like the dry shampoo was thick. But all of this to say that messy buns, furry coworkers, non-traditional workspaces, all of this is highly, highly welcomed and encouraged here at Power to Fly. We want to meet you where you are. Now, if you have any kind of concern or privacy concerns regarding having your cameras on, totally understand, y'all. As long as you don't come off mute, you will not show up on the recording or the live stream of today's session. Now, if you do want to come off mute at some point to ask a question of our speaker, you are welcome to do so. All you got to do is use the raise hand feature. You'll find it in your reactions reactions button in your Zoom toolbar. That way I can give you all the permissions to come off mute, ask your question. Now, I did say that today's session is being recorded. So if one thing to know is that since it is being recorded, you don't have to worry about taking notes. You don't have to worry if you missed a resource that someone said, or if you got jotted down items 1 through 5 of a 7-thing list. You don't have to worry about that at all. Now, let's say that that Rebecca says something today that is just so profound. So like chef's kiss, just amazing. You cannot wait to share it with a friend or a coworker or a relative. You do not have to wait. So in about 1 to 2 business days, we're going to email you a link to where you can watch this recording when it's posted on powerfly.com. And if you want to share this sooner, you can always head over to our YouTube channel. I'll share the links for all of this in the chat in just a little bit. But you can check out the recordings are posted there, usually within about 5 to 15 minutes at the end of the live stream. Now, on our Power to Fly YouTube account, you can also check out a huge amount of our archive chats. So there's a whole big library you can search. And on our website, there is the full archive as well. So I definitely recommend checking out those 2 sources. Now, if you do want to keep up with us on our various social media platforms, we are at Power to Fly. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And you're more than welcome to take photos or video as we go, share them out to your social media, let your community know that you are learning and growing with Power to Fly. We'd love to reshare, retweet y'all, anything we can do to raise visibility of these amazing resources, y'all. We want to share them with everyone. Now, last but not least, if you would still like to participate, but you don't want to come off mute, that is totally fine. You do not have to. You can always type any questions or comments you have for the speaker into the Zoom chat. I'll be there monitoring the whole time. And if you have a question that you would like to ask, but you want to be kept anonymous, all you have to do is DM it to me instead of sending it to everyone. So when you go to type in that Zoom group chat, instead of saying everyone, you're going to tick that drop-down menu and pick Meg Alexander. Now, I'm really, really, really excited to introduce you to our speaker. I was getting to know her a little bit before today's event started, and y'all, this is going to be dynamic and amazing. I truly, I can already tell. So Rebecca Leppard is here with us, and she founded her learning and development organization called Upgrading Women to help companies concretely achieve their diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. Now, she aims to bring her 20 years of communications experience in the commercial sector to the training room and to help women upgrade themselves. Now, from Rebecca, you can expect unfiltered stories and best practices in presenting, strategizing, problem solving, and being a lady leader. Rebecca, I'm super excited for you to join us today. So thank you for being here. Is there anything else that you would like our audience to know about you before we dive in?
Hi, I just wanted to shout out to, excuse me, my Indonesian friends. Yeah, my friends from the homeland, from the motherland. Yeah,
Yeah.
So I'm Indonesian, living in the UK, and I'm saying hello to all of you across the globe. And as we know, with recent events, I want to share my condolences to all women in the US and your loss of your rights.
Yeah.
I can see your protesting there, Megan.
Yeah, well, that's one of the growing collection of protest signs I have, some a bit spicier than others. So this is the one I keep for chats, because it's, palatable for everyone, non-offensive. But you're right. Thank you so much for that acknowledgement. It's very weird. It's very weird to be hearing stuff like that, especially when there's so much else going on in the world, like war in Ukraine, and it's bonkers. But thank you so much for extending that. Hopefully we'll get our act together soon and fix some of these glaring mistakes that we have made.
Absolutely. So
yeah.
Shall we go? Shall we dive in?
Yeah, I've got one more slide to share, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to Rebecca. Last thing I want to share with y'all today is some of the main takeaways you can expect. All right, so these, what you see on your screen is what we're going to try and cover today. Now, we identified these both with conversations with Rebecca prior to today's session, as well as by taking a look at the questions that you all submitted when you registered today. So the biggest thing to know about this is that this is what we're going to try and touch on, but if you have questions, you get to control the discussion today. Let us know if you want to dive in deeper on something that Rebecca's talking about. Let us know if you agree or disagree with some of the advice that's given. Have you experienced this situation and done something different? Let us know, y'all. We want to learn and grow, not just from Rebecca, but from each other if we can. So we're going to talk about some ways to map your audience's journey when you are trying to build up these presentation strategies. We're going to talk about ways to choose what data you present. This is something that I absolutely struggle with. I feel like more information is always more. So I'm really excited to hear Rebecca's take on this. And then we're going to talk about some ways to end your presentation like a winner. I think we all have been at that position where you put on your show and then you don't really know how to get off stage. So I'm really, really, really excited to dive in here. Now, I'm going to turn the stage over to Rebecca. She's got some slides and stuff to share, so I'll be in the background, but I'll be here the whole time. So Rebecca, take it away.
Thank you, Meg. So here we are. Rebecca presents presentation. So as we have seen the agenda for today, I would like to just reiterate that I will teach you how to take your audience from where they are now to where you want them to be. And that data dilemma will be addressed. So how to choose which evidence to exhibit in the boardroom. And then, all that starts well will end well. And how to ensure that your audience has really arrived to that destination that you were taking them on. Okay, so before that, I need to really set the definition first, okay? Everything else versus a presentation. The definition of a presentation is definitely, so a presentation is not a meeting, okay? It's not a lecture, it's not an announcement, it's not a town hall, it's not a speech. So if it can be delivered in an email and or a proposal and or a brochure, then it is not content for a presentation. A presentation is an event, not a slide document where someone who, so this is when someone representing an idea or a company would like to deliver to this selected or targeted audience to buy into that idea. And this buy-in can be in a format of an agreement or a change. Now that we agreed that presentation is not a thing, it's an event. Now, this is an event to convince an audience. So we know that the best practice is short and sweet, not long and in-depth, because it's not a lecture. Okay, so when we go in a bit later to the storyboard stage, I will show you what a 10-slide presentation looks like. I promise you that it only takes 10 slides if you have a clear mind, okay? But now that you can differentiate between that, this is, I will share you more benefit of having the presentation short. And this is, I think, addressing also some of the questions that you guys sent earlier. One, it's to optimize time. That is the one commodity that is very, very expensive that you cannot buy back. Secondly, you have an engaged audience. Science already said that we only have human have only 45 minutes attention span. So that is your absolute limit. And then there's no stimuli overload. There's no Excel sheet, data, video, photo, and etc. And eventually your audience is just going to be overstimulated and getting nowhere. And lastly, you will be highly appreciated and that they will return for more. In the world where you can be anything, be someone that ends meetings early. Don't you laugh at someone? Right? So yeah, again, if the question is how to not bore audience, well, start with being concise. That's always the best. Right. And right off the bat, the most frequently asked question is how to design attractive slides. Okay, you will find thousands and thousands of tutorials on how to use presentation software. And I can teach you, but it's not a mandatory skill. Believe it or not, it's not mandatory to be able to navigate all of this cool stuff. Yeah, I know I'm showing you this. Whoa, Rebecca can show screen on screen. How can I do that? But it's not mandatory. And I'll tell you the design apps that is my go-to is Prezi, which is what I'm using now. But it's also in combination with Canva. So for graphics and diagram and all that, I use Canva. Although Canva has its own slide builder. And there is beautiful.ai. There's so many. Guys, if you type presentation or slide builder on Google, within half a second, you will find 30 million results, okay? So this is not that lecture. So this is where we learn how to streamline our thoughts and ideas so that we eventually can build those slides, no matter how basic, how monochromatic, it can be black and white, your audience will still understand what you're saying. And now imagine the other way around. A colorful animated slide with expressive, captivating presenter, and you come out from that meeting room still not understanding what it was about. That is a nightmare, right? So, slide design versus clarity. The two big reasons why I am training you to get clarity is more important than the mastering the software, because you cannot keep up with the tech anyway. Every week, there's a new app, and for every app, there's a new feature. And people from a younger generation, like my children, they will just run around in circle around us, and we will be that quote unquote boomer that we always, be pulling legs off. And lastly, relying on animation will not save you from wasting people's time. Okay, so if you think this is a race of who adopt text first wins, you will get obsolete fast. And if you rely so much on the bells and whistles of your slide, what will happen to your pitch when the world is on a global power cut? And would you not be able to draw a clear storyboard of your thinking with pen and paper? If not, then it's obvious that your thesis needs sharpening. Okay, all of this is not to say that I'm going to ignore the best practice of color combination, font pairings, diagrams and charts, but please, I know this will sound controversial, stay analog for as long as you can before you start working on your digital slides. I tell you, I was working on analog the entire weekend, and I only built this teaching slide, today's presentation, just a few hours ago, honestly. So it's more important sharpening your axe before you're actually trying to chop down the tree. Okay? Now, well, I did say apps and software versus pen and paper. I'm all for pen and paper. If a presentation is an event, it is not a beauty pageant. It is more like a modern day stand-up comedy. You need to introduce the audience with context and then bring them into your perspective and then tell them the twist of a situation so that they can see how ironic or silly or ridiculous it is. The most sought after comedians these days are the ones who make you laugh and think and reflect about current affairs and everyday life. Those comedians have one of the clearest thinking and beautiful writing compared to politician speechwriters because they have a purpose. They know what they want the audience to feel, which is, joy, cheer, and laugh, right? So this is the simplest yet most powerful tool I have to define that purpose, the objective of your presentation. It's just a simple table, the start and finish line. So you want to know what your audience is currently, before your presentation, thinking, feeling, and doing. And you want to map out where you want them to be. What do you want them to think, feel, and do after? So say the start line is point A, the finish line is point B. I'm going to give you an example. Okay, this is an example from a case study of presenting a policy recommendation to a local council official so that she considers the maximum speed limit on roads in which schools are located. So we name the key audience, which is the Madam Councilwoman. So before the presentation, what do they think about this problem subject / issue? They're thinking there are many traffic codes already. Drivers should be vigilant about any without any additional rule. And how do they feel about it? She's feeling worried that she will be criticized if she issues more and more regulations. And what do? Inaction. So she's being cautious about her policy choices because she is due for a re-election soon. And then where do you want them, what do you want her to be after your presentation? You want her to feel that, or to think that school children really needs to be protected by law against careless drivers. And you want them to feel optimistic that actually she will be praised for this pedestrian-centric traffic rules. And what they will do, what we want her to do is actually she and her team will study the recommendation that you're giving in detail so that she will eventually be confident with her choices and therefore can use this policy as her message of accomplishment while in office. So she will use that, instead of being fearful, use that as accomplishment in the following campaign for re-election. So this is the example of the audience mapping. And the only way to know is you have to empathize with your key audience. You have to draw an empathy map. Now, what is in the way of that point A from point B? Before we move forward, by the way, I'd like to put on a disclaimer here that you will not, by this evening, become a superhero whose power is to think clearly. So the reason is that our brain has this thing called neuroplasticity. And just like muscle, it needs training, consistent, continuous, deliberate training. Just like you can walk around the mall for hours and hours and it will not build your muscle like 1 hour training in the gym. Your brain, like any other software, needs regular upgrading too. And if you let me digress for 2 more seconds, that is why I founded Upgrading Women. Okay, plug over back to the course. Yeah, let's see, in our route in taking our audience from point A to point B, there's something missing there. And that is where our presentation will come in, sorry. Okay, so the only way to know that your audience, what your audience is struggling with to get to point B on their own without your presentation is to draw an empathy map. In my original module, this empathy map drawing takes at least a full hour, if not 2 hours to study. So I'll have to skip that bit because we don't have 2 hours. So I will have to, because I also want to answer some of your questions after this. So here is what I have categorized, what's in the way of your audience that your presentation should serve is A, lack of evidence, lack of understanding, and lack of know-how. So if your audience has lack of evidence, therefore your presentation is going to be data heavy. Although this does not mean that you are going to dump your Excel sheet on the slide. Okay, present only the ones that will help your audience understand where your opinion of this matter came from. Okay, and also present it suggestively. One same statistics, 7 out of 10 is exactly the same as 3 out of 10, right? But which one that will be more compelling to your audience, that is the one that you will present. Take that data to your site, right? Which one, okay? In any advert, it will say 7 out of 10 people choose our product, but it will never say 3 out of 10 people did not choose our product, okay? So speaking about data, this is how your slide, how you filter the data from a stack of facts into useful information so that your audience can make decisions based on that information, plus your thesis, which is coming from your own observation and knowledge, to then bring them to the end game, which is the wisdom to change or the wisdom to agree to buy into your idea. Now, speaking of a thesis here, I understand I'm using a specific jargon, and unfortunately, again, I don't have time to elaborate on this, but your thesis is basically, it comprises of what you have observed and your opinion on what to do about it. Okay? It's my favorite subject, actually. Unfortunate that we have to skip that. Okay, so that was if the audience just lack of evidence. But what about it's they are just lacking of evidence, understanding. So then, oh, and what I mean by lack of understanding is lack of understanding of the beneficiary of the end user of your idea. Okay, so if you're talking to bankers, then the end user is then probably their own customers, and you're trying to build an app to serve that customers. So for this purpose, provide a user story, which can be statistical or anecdotal, whichever that suits your purpose to compel your audience's feelings. So in the case of presenting to that councilwoman about the traffic rules, you can probably tell 1 or 2 stories about a mother whose child has been hit by a rogue or fast, reckless driver during a school run. Or you can say, oh, in the past year, there has been so-and-so accident that happened on this and this road due to speeding. Okay. And then you present an insight as well from industry trend or what others are doing in a different region. So for example, this councilwoman, we can just also draw an example. Didn't you know that this city from this different state or different province have already implemented this rule? So not the fear of missing out. Yeah, use that FOMO. Okay, and a third category is the lack of knowledge of the process. Normally this happens when you talk within the same organization, but with different departments. The kitchen department is talking to the marketing department, talking about, you know, the same restaurant that, so what generally happens is that your audience shares similar observations about the problem and they agree that there's something that needs to be done, but they just do not know how to or where to start. Therefore, your presentation is going to be more instructional. Okay, so if you're from the marketing department trying to explain to the chef how we should revamp the menu because sales is going down and so on. Yeah. And for this purpose, then you may use diagram to walk them through the process. And then also be careful of your tone because they are probably more senior than you or they're at the same level of seniority, but just from different department. So it is instructional, but be careful not to be condescending or womansplaining, if there's such a thing. Right, so now we go to the anatomy of a 10-slide presentation. Here, so slide 1 to 10. I will elaborate on them, but just hear me out. So first is goal setting, as in you tell your audience this presentation is for what purpose. So they are all in the same on the same page, literally. And then second slide is your ABT statement. I will elaborate on ABT statement on the next slide. And then your slide 3 to 8 is the pyramid of persuasion. So you write your statement. This is your assertion. And for that particular statement, this is the evidence. And so on and so forth. Limited to 3. And the way you choose which statement to put is you imagine, you know who your audience is. You imagine as soon as you say your statement on slide 2, what would be their first and most fundamental questions? And that the answer to those questions will be your statements. So preempt their doubts, their fear, their apathy, preempt it by imagining what questions they're going to ask, and then immediately assert your statement plus your evidence. Now, these evidence are those data, the testimonials, the clippings of news, the statistics, and so on. And your 9th slide is your thesis. So you re-emphasize what your thoughts and what you want your audience to buy into. And number 10 is the call to action. So that is your last slide. Your last slide is not, thank you for coming, okay? That your last slide is your CTA. Okay, so as promised. So the ABT statement is and, but, and therefore. This is an example of an ABT statement from that previous example of that presentation to the councilwoman. So the second slide will read as this. This city is known as one of the top 10 safest cities in this country. And young families choose to build their lives in the city for its cleaner air as well as its good schools. But there has been an increase of 50% vehicle-related accidents during school term in the past year. Therefore, we need to pass a new traffic rule at 20 miles per hour on the road where schools are located. Okay, so that is your ABT statement. If you Google ABT statement, it's a quite a common term, but not that common. So I will just preempt your question by giving you an example here. So this would be like a good visual for a presentation to the councilwoman, because probably this councilwoman do not have children, or have children but already mature, so cannot relate with today's problem, for example. Okay, so this is the what I mentioned earlier is the pyramid of persuasion. So imagine that there will be questions about your pitch, the why, and make it into 6 slides of those answers and evidence. Then, this is also hopefully will answer the question, how to end your presentation is end it with a call to action. For example, your last slide will read, let's meet first week of August so we can present the prototype for you, whatever prototype of your idea or your new feature and what have you. Or the call to action would be, from now on, let's use our casual Fridays as bring your true authentic self to work day. That's a call to action. Or if something as simple as you want to rally a sign up and say, okay, those who would like to join this effort, please put your name on the form and we will start distributing the task next week. Ending this not only give you the commitment from all the presumed yeses in the room, but also give you really then the bridge to the next step, to what you want to achieve. I read that some of you have some questions about how do we ensure that they will come back for next time. This is one of them. If you already say, okay, if we agree that this is the way to go, let's meet next week. Let's discuss the policy recommendation. Let's see the beta version of this new thing you're doing. So already book it in. And if I were you, not only that I will put it on the slide, I will literally then, after the presentation, call up their secretaries and then find the time for that next meeting or next whatever you. Okay, so your call to action is also valid for yourself. So that is how you close deals, you follow up. Okay, now let's roll into questions. Okay, so far the questions are in here, but as Meg said earlier, you can pop in your questions. Maybe I've said something that is absolutely bonkers to you, or absolutely you disagree. Please let me know, and we can disagree together. That is democracy, isn't it? So, question number 1. How not to bore your audience. Okay. you will already know my answer, because this entire time, the past half hour, I have not yet shown you a single tips and tricks on how to animate your slide. So ensure that your content is relevant. If you know how many times we've been invited to a presentation or a meeting that has absolutely nothing to do with our job description or even our department. So ensure that your content is relevant and that your invitees are relevant and that your examples are relatable. I train people globally, but if I'm sharing a best practice about, for example, about how cities are run, and I use examples from Japan and from Sweden to people in Cambodia, then they will be upset with me saying that, well, it's irrelevant. We cannot relate. We don't even have the infrastructure. We don't have the budget and so on and so forth. So ensure that when you're giving examples, even if it's from a different industry or different region, find an apple to apple examples. So you can be shy, you can be an introvert, but if what you are talking about is worth their attention, they will pay attention to you. We've seen it. How many YouTubers, successful YouTubers, are actually shy and introverts? So it's about the content, right? Now, if you need to add some more, yes, you can choose between graphics or videos, but only if the audience can relate to it. Okay. Now, how to ensure that your idea is not is heard of and that you can take credit. Now, this is a very #female problem. And I tell you that this problem actually happens in a meeting and brainstorming session, not likely in a presentation, but I'll answer anyway. So before you speak, write the idea down on your notes and then call for attention. Don't just shout it. Call for attention that you want to say something and assert your thoughts with no speech afflictions. Okay? No, maybe, perhaps, sort of, kind of, like, and end it with blah, 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 if it makes sense. No, it has to make sense. Otherwise, why would you even say it, you know? And don't say, oh, I kind of want to explore. No, do you want to explore it or you don't? Don't say kind of. I remind myself that it's like, us millennials, Gen Z, we often say, well, we're sort of this and that. Or can you imagine if one of us would say, hi, I'm kind of pregnant? No, it's either you're pregnant or you're not. You cannot be kind of pregnant. Tell that to Supreme Court.
That qualifying language, though, that's insidious, right? Like we all fall prey to it, and it's very easy. Like, I don't know about anybody else. When I use it, I feel like it's either because I'm not quite sure how it's going to resonate with the audience I'm saying it to. It's far less likely to be because I'm a little unsure about my own idea. Yes. And so I think that thank you for calling that out, because that qualifying language, is not doing us any favors, right? It's not softening the blow to get people to accept what we're going to say.
Yes, and especially here in England. So I, for many years, I work with a lot of Germans and Indonesians as well, of course. And it's so funny that people in the UK are more like people in Indonesia, in that when they say things, be it in an email or presentation or a speech, they use this sort of language because they don't want to come across as arrogant, or as Miss Know-it-all. But I tell you something, you can do that without putting these extra phrases, but by just changing your tone. And again, nobody can fight with data. So if you come with evidence, or you open with evidence. So like earlier I said, okay, so well, this city is actually quite safe, but da da da. Therefore, let's think about this. So we cannot just say, sort of 20 miles an hour. Well, is it 20 miles or 22 miles an hour? You know. So there you are. I know it's hard. Again, it takes practice, and that's why I say before you speak, write it down, because when you write it down, you don't write the kind of, sort of, you don't, right? You only say it, but when you write it, you don't. And because English is my second language, I'm helped that I would use notes and what I write. So then I will just read what I write, which exclude all of those speech afflictions. That's my cheat sheet. So I have a full-on a presentation notes here, my cheat sheet. So then, next question. What is the best way to speak with your audience? Oh, highly dependent on who your audience is and what is the culture of that ecosystem, the culture of your audience, the culture of the organization that you're in, the culture of that particular stage. That is why it's a bit hard for me today, because there's so many cultures in this audience today, and so many cultures and so many subculture. Like maybe you work, maybe you are in the US, but you're an immigrant, and so on and so forth. So research and be aware of your audience's culture background and their company culture. What you don't want to do is to put them off despite them actually being on the same page as you. So in my classroom, normally we would dissect this type of audience, which I will show you quickly. It would look like this. So what type of person is this person? Just wants to see your pedigree, if you have a certain certification, blah, blah, blah. Or this person is really studious and really want to see the technical details. So I saw some of your questions as well, like how details do you need to be? Well, yeah, again, who are you speaking with? Because if you are speaking with, for example, C-suite people, the CEO, CFO, CMO, they don't have the time or interest to learn the technical details that you're trying to share, because they're operating on a helicopter view, bird eye view, right? So you telling them that will absolutely bore them to death. So I'm trying to save lives here. One slide at a time. So yeah, but then if you're talking to the people who will then implement your idea into their operation, then you do want to be technical, right? So all of this is really, really useful. It's a shame that we have only limited time, but yeah, if you feel that you benefited from today's session and would like to support what I do for women and minority groups, simply follow my startup journey on Instagram and LinkedIn. And we still have, 15 minutes to answer some of your questions. So
yes. Oh, Rebecca, thank you for that great presentation. I honestly, I do this for a living, and I have taken so many tips from you, like jotting them down in my little, I have like a notepad app on my desktop. So thank you so much for these. They're wonderful. I just want to highlight, like Rebecca said, we've got 15 minutes left in today's session. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask and you want to do so via audio, excellent. All you got to do is go into your Zoom toolbar, hit reactions, and that'll give you the raise hand feature. That way everybody can join a nice orderly queue. Nobody gets skipped, blah, blah, blah. If nobody wants to jump in and be first, that's totally fine. We've got questions that we can kind of dive back into from the questions that Rebecca had answered. Or if you just want clarification or for an expanded answer on something, let me know. Let us know in the chat. so that we can make that happen for you. All right. So one of the questions that we got asked a lot was about mistakes, right? Like mistakes that people make, during a presentation, after a presentation. Do you think there are any like top 2, top 3 mistakes that you see people make the most frequently?
Yes. Presenting the data. People should understand, well, when you want to do anything, and I think Twitter is a good example. With Twitter, you're forced to be 140 characters. Now it's 280. But with presentation, it's almost like unlimited amount of slides, okay? Literally just all day long. And secondly, what you need to also understand that there's a limit of the screen. Now that we don't attend presentation in a big ballroom anymore, so you see there's a limitation of screen. And you can imagine if you just copy and paste everything, A, you cannot even see. And B, it will maybe then misdirect or misinform them simply because you're you can be too lazy to reproduce that data, or you almost feel like, but everything is important. Yes.
Yeah, that's the pitfall I drop into a lot.
Of course, everything is important. Otherwise, why would you have that on your Excel sheet in the first place? But what you want to present is not what is important, but what is compelling.
Ooh, okay.
Right? So imagine when you are building your personal profile, your CV, your LinkedIn, your Tinder, your Bumble profile. While your medical information is, yes, of course, it's important to put your weight and height and whether you were born premature or not. Yes, it's important for a certain audience, which is your doctors. But is it important, right? And even I have made mistakes when I told a potential employer that I have 3 children and they're all young.
Oh, gosh.
That's important to me, but I couldn't take that back. And the potential employer didn't even ask. So it was my own blabbermouth because I thought it's important.
Yeah,
it is
important to know. Yeah. Well, because when businesses are hiring people, they're not just hiring your employee self. They're kind of hiring you. It's you're gonna be part of the rest of your life while you're still in that job.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to thank you, Mary. I wanted to be fully honest and transparent about who I am, in that I would absolutely hire a mother of 3 because the the project management skill is ninja.
Oh, yes.
How do you manage the dentist appointment?
I can barely manage my own schedule, and I'm literally the only person it impacts. So yes, the multitasking ability of parents is just, it's bonkers to me. It's awe-inspiring.
Yeah, and therefore you should hire instead of you should hire because of it, not despite of that. While everything is important, choose the one that will serve your purpose of that presentation. Like I said, is it better to present 7 out of 10 or the 3 out of 10?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we touch on at least one more question. We've got 10 minutes left. So we'll try to get to maybe 2 if we can. But the first one that I wanted to highlight here is what can we do to make people want to be in our upcoming presentations? I don't do presentations every day. I do more interviews. But for me, that's one of the things that I get the most feedback on is that people, one of my goals is to make sure that people want to come back and do this again. So when it comes to a presentation where, you're trying to make sure that people don't say like, oh yeah, she's giving another presentation, I'm out of office at that point. Like, if that's what you're trying to stay away from,
Yeah.
do you think there's any kind of key either like aspects or key things that people do in their presentations that really makes people want to be like, oh yeah, that was really good, I want to hear her explain blah blah blah?
Yes. Well, the content, again, I would emphasize this. The content has to be relevant to the person. And even when I posted this, the brochure or the flyer of this event to my WhatsApp group for my my high school friends. And of course, they're all now CEOs and partner in a law firm and whatnot. So when I posted that, I said, I'm not saying that you need this. I'm saying that, can you send this to your employees who normally would prepare the deck for you?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So they know that I know who will this particular presentation is serving for. So, but if within that group is like full of 200 of brilliant women. I went to an all-female high school.
Same, yes.
But at the same time, I wouldn't presume that they need me, which is their classmate, to teach them something that they probably already know and master. But also give enough room for maybe some of them do still need a reminder or a nudge like this. So again, so this is all the way back. So before you even invite anyone, ensure that every single person that attends your presentation for the first time really get the benefit from it, because otherwise, Rebecca is irrelevant, Rebecca is boring, and so on. And secondly is that, there was a question as well, how, formal or informal?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yes. So the same way that when I say your preparation on filtering your audience and really then point out, okay, this presentation will only serve those who are in the operation department. Those who are in the back office will not benefit from attending this. A lot of companies are quite lazy to just blast email to everyone at company.com and just hope for the best for a town hall, for example. But yeah, we should not be lazy in filtering it. Otherwise, again, the next time this lady is email blasting everyone, we're like, oh, is this gonna be even useful for me? And then secondly, the delivery itself, and this is not this just is not, I don't say this lightly, but your sense of humor, you have to pack that in your self, because if you take yourself too seriously, even though what you're presenting is about the war, global famine, the coronavirus, obviously, if you take yourself too seriously, you will lose your audience's engagement, because it's almost like you're preaching at them instead of embracing, let's find a solution together. Or you're just basically making an announcement, which could have been an email. So yeah, you have to have that sense of humor. You have to be warm from the get-go. And I hate to say this, but ladies, if you have that resting bee face like I do,
same resting zombie face, hard.
Unfortunately, you have to plaster that smile, you draw it like a Joker, the whole time. I tell you, my face is hurting right now because I have been putting up a smile in the past couple of hours. I did have a meeting before this, and yeah,
Can
and
confirm.
yeah,
It's hard, y'all. These get a workout. Okay,
yeah,
there's a reason that the
absolutely.
chipmunk cheeks only get worse as I get older, and it's because of how much time I spend doing this.
But I tell you something, it only takes 2 muscles to smile and takes, I think, 100 of muscles to frown.
Literally takes, I think, what is it? It's 5 or 6 muscles to smile, but the one that I always heard was it's like 5 or 6 muscles to smile, 100 to frown, but only 3 to punch someone in the face. So, and sometimes that you know, that 3 muscle option seems really tempting, but
for the men, I don't know if there's any men in this audience, but if there's a man and you have a very punchable face, well, we have the resting bee face, but men sometimes have a very punchable face. Do smile. And especially if you're a white privileged man, tone it down a little bit.
Approachability, you think is that part of it?
Pardon?
Approachability, maybe.
Yes, the approachability, the relatability, and what is the opposite of condescending? Yeah, but that. Don't mansplain and so on. And like what I did, I had a typo, and I am married to a copy editor, and if he sees me this presentation, this hasn't gone through proofreading at all, and if he sees me, he's like, that is a glaring mistake. Well, just laugh. I mean, this audience should be thankful that this whole teaching slide was not prepared by an AI, right? Yes. So that sense of humor will help you as well with tough audience. Oh, you know what? We only have 2 minutes, because I remember this, what to do for a difficult audience.
Yeah.
Shall I just say it?
Yeah, try. See what we can get done in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Let's see if I can speed talk. Okay. Useful phrases for on a meeting or a presentation. Or a comment that makes you speechlessly upset. Say, let me reflect on that for a moment. Compose yourself. Gather your professional thoughts before responding with data or a hypothesis. Okay. So that 5 seconds that it took for you to say, let me reflect on that for a moment and compose yourself will chill yourself down, okay? Second, for a tough yet constructive question, say, oh, that is a solid one. Thank you for that perspective. While I had not considered it, I will certainly include it before we go to the next stage. So don't let that don't allow that for the audience to say no. They will still have to say yes, because you are promising them, well, I will address it if you let me go to the next stage, right? And third, for irrelevant comment, gosh, eye roll, say, thank you for your feedback, and allow me to put a pin on that for now so we can go back on track, because I appreciate everybody's time here. Lastly, for a negative comment, say, I'm glad you took the time to zoom in. What would you like to see different that could convince you? So basically ask them to help themselves to agree with you. Or say this, perhaps you could offer a different perspective, something I had not put into consideration in my assertions, right? So invite them to be constructive, basically, is my tips. So there you go. Gosh, we're just out of time.
We are, yes. I'm so sorry. I just want to say a big thank you to Rebecca. It was really wonderful to get to learn from you this morning. I hope that we'll get a chance to work together again soon. This has been really, really lovely. Thank you so much.
100%, 100%. For those of you who are not camera shy or who don't have any privacy issues, is it possible that we take a screenshot?
Yeah, let's do that. If y'all have to drop, totally get it.
Yeah.
But if you are still here and would like to be, show up and show out for somebody who has brought us some really, really great content today. Thank you, y'all. Turn your cameras on. No need to be insta perfect, truly. Big old smile is really all you need. People do not look past that, I promise you. All right, let's see here. Let me see if
I'll let you take a screenshot.
Yeah, I'll get you a screenshot. There we go. All right, so everybody, big smiles. Yay, hooray. Oh my God. There we go.
Perfect.
There we go. All right, Rebecca, I'll put that in the thank you email I'm going to send out in just a moment.
Yes, thank you so much. Just one thing. Humor can be a double-edged sword, Mary said, because it's subjective. Again, go back to my empathy map, who you're talking to, then adjust your humor accordingly.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to say again, thank you, y'all. This has been truly, truly wonderful. I really love getting to see all of your smiling faces. I love having these chances to, kind of make the most of these events and meet so many people. So thank you all for coming today. This was really, really wonderful. I hope that if this has been your first Power to Fly event, that this will not be your last. And I also hope that if you are one of our frequent flyers, we see you a lot. Thank you so much for coming out. I really love seeing familiar faces. So thank you all for that. I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your Monday. We've got some great programming coming up for you in the week ahead. So check us out on our various social media channels. Make sure you're registered for some of the upcoming sessions, or just subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's a really good way to make sure that you don't miss out on chats without having to register for each separate one if you don't want to. So anyway, that's going to be us closing out for today, but I hope we'll see y'all soon. Bye.